I think you can have success in different areas of your life. If you want to be, the best husband or father you could be, or the best broker you could be, and you probably have goals within that, smaller subset goals. So success is just, setting goals and achieving your goals. And those goals may look different from you, Yona, and they'll probably look a lot different from me.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I'm your host, Yona Weiss. With me today is our very own Mark Allen. How you doing today?
Good, Yona. Thanks for having me.
Sunny Dallas, Texas today. And as I understand it, you guys are, you guys opened up the economy, one of the first, right?
Yeah.
Out in Texas from this crazy pandemic. And you guys are living it up over there.
Yeah. I was just telling Yona that I had a client fly in a couple of weeks ago, and he lives in New York City. And he said, I felt like I stepped back in time whenever I came into Dallas. We went right to dinner, and it seemed like there was a sense of normalcy. Everything was back to normal. I guess our COVID cases have increased a little bit here in Dallas, but it's 91 degrees out. It's sunny, and it seems like the real estate market is back in action, at least when it comes to multifamily real estate.
Yeah, and so we're definitely going to touch on that because Mark is with Greystone. Let me just pull up a little bit so you know who we're dealing with over here, the one and only Mark Allen, because I probably have a bio somewhere. Well, if you don't know Mark, he is one of the top brokers at Greystone. Previously with Marcus and Millichap, right? You did a little bit with a little here, a little there, right? You've been in the multifamily industry for close to a decade, right? And closing deals, left and right. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background, because you came from, as I understand it, playing Division I football at West Point. Yeah. So one of the top schools, obviously the Army. And so what was that like?
Yeah. So I was, my goal in high school, it was probably, it was my sole drive was to go to college and play college football, and not at a smaller school. I wanted to play against the top competition. So that being said, I had offers from a lot of different schools across the country, most of those smaller schools. And again, I wanted to play against the top competition. So I had the Air Force Academy and West Point, which is Army football.
Yeah.
The United States Military Academy at West Point, which is in New York. They recruited me. And as soon as I got the letter and it had Army on it, I said, there's no way, I'm never going into the Army. My mom said, well, hold up, that's West Point. That's a really good school. You got to think about your education. And so anyways, I did a little exploration. I ended up visiting both the Air Force Academy and West Point. And it just really drew me in. I mean, it was like, if you've ever been to West Point, it looks like, if you've seen Harry Potter, it looks like Hogwarts. It's a lot of gray stone, and it looks like a castle. It's beautiful. It's on the Hudson River, right off the Hudson River. And it's just got a ton of history. So that drew me in, although it's what I would call the road less taken compared to, a typical university. You get hazed your freshman year. You have, duties where you serve the upperclassmen. At any time, they can ask you to quote, what are the next 3 meals for the day? And you have to say it in a certain, standard. So anyways, very, very different lifestyle, very different than your typical education.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like it. And that probably gave you a lot of the muscles, so to speak, that you use to persevere. And I mean, it sounds like, not just literally muscles, but figuratively, to help you become one of the top brokers, multifamily brokers in the city of Dallas. So, which, is one of the top markets in the country, if not the top market in the country. So What was your transition like from college football, right? College, right? Obviously into real estate.
Well, sure. I guess there was a step between that, which was actually I had to serve in the military in the U.S. Army.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but going back, I just to say there was a lot of um, disciplines that were instilled at West Point, and I would say that um, at least one of the things, you're drinking from a fire hose, and they want to load as much on you and stress you out as much as possible because they know once you graduate West Point, you have to serve in their U.S. Army. And when you're in battle and you're faced with a lot of different scenarios, they want you to be prepared. So I think that's ultimately definitely helped me as a broker with, time management and just, discipline and some of those things.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service, because I didn't realize that you served as well after being in college.
Yep.
So that's incredible. And are you still involved at all with with the military? I know there's a lot of people who are still involved with veterans and those type of affairs.
Yeah. No, not today. Once I completed my commitment to essentially pay back my education, which was actually 5 years at West Point. I went to the prep school. West Point Prep School at the time was in New Jersey, and then went in to West Point, which is upstate New York, about an hour north of New York City.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and like I said, so I did go into the Army after, but my first real estate experience was actually at West Point. So all the academies and ROTC programs, knowing that you're going to be a commissioned officer and you're going to come out with a second lieutenant salary and kind of have that guaranteed paycheck by the government. They offer during 2009, it was a $35,000 loan at 0.5% interest. And I took that loan, and my dad said, "You're going to buy real estate with this. This is a great time to buy real estate."
Wow.
So he's like, "I'll help you find a deal." Kind of taking a step back, my dad is still today, he's a general contractor in Orlando, Florida. He builds a lot of spec homes, or he'll take land and develop it out, build 10 single family homes in a little boutique neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's doing today. And his parents have been real estate brokers and investors on the single family side. So it was kind of in my blood, I guess you could say. And so we found a foreclosure. It was a 2-bed, 2-bath condo in Melbourne, Florida, which is about an hour east of Orlando, for those that don't know. And I bought that and put a little bit of money into it, fixed it up, rented it out, and I said, well, hey, this passive income or this cash flow thing is kind of cool. So I took that and ran with it, got out into the Army, and just started meeting with some other real estate investors, and really just figuring it out. Some different strategies. I was broke second lieutenant, and I didn't have much money, and I was using some creative strategies, some little to no money type strategies with wrapping mortgages and whatnot, which helped me build up a little nest egg. I was doing some wholesaling. So that helped me build up a little nest egg. And then eventually I was, adding rentals or flipping homes and some of those things, which,
right. Yeah. That sounds like you had that in your blood. Like you're saying, you went into it already knowing something. You had a little help, getting your feet wet right in the beginning, which, is very fortunate of you. And you also had a lot of experience with single families, right? And
right.
To the point that, just a little plug over here, you just authored a book, right, called Buying in Bulk, right? All about single family portfolios. So what was that, in terms of, if you could elaborate on the difference in your own experience between the single families, versus the multifamily?
Yeah, so there's going to be trade-offs, I think, positives and negatives for each, call it, asset class. When you think about the time, you get economies of scale with multifamily. And if you're going to try to build a rental portfolio and build this passive income stream, it's a little more difficult to do, or it takes a lot more time to do with buying one-off single-family homes and building a portfolio versus buying an apartment complex. And then on the other side, for example, with a single family home, typically 3-bed, 2-bath, or maybe it's a 2-2. Typically you have larger, unit mixes, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And with that, you have lower turnover. Your tenants stay for a longer period of time.
Right.
because you may have families and they just tend to stay for a longer period of time, and you have lower turnover costs and some of those things. Actually had a client tell me he owns about 3,000 multifamily units, and he's got about 800 single family homes. And he told me that when you look at my portfolios, multifamily versus single family, my single family turnover is around 20%, and my multifamily turnover is around 39%.
Really?
So just two examples there, but
no, it's a great fact, thing to think about and factor, because obviously the pros of the economies to scale when it comes to multifamily is really talked about a lot. But is there a way, because you talked about in this book, Buying for Bulk, is there a way to do economies to scale in single families as well?
Yeah. So the whole premise of the book was, I start with a little history about the institutionalization of the single family rental product, where you had some of these REITs or hedge funds coming in. And it was the same back in multifamily in the late 80s and into the 90s, where it was very new and has really matured over the last 20, 30 years. We saw this happen during the Great Recession. And, since then, we've seen even Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae try to, dip their toe in the water because, financing is difficult when you're buying a commercial with a commercial loan, single family rental portfolio. Interest rates are a lot higher. It's a recourse loan. So, that started to be an exciting time. And I think, they're kind of not really sure if they want to get into the space, and, who knows what it'll look like in 10 years from now. But anyways, going back to the book, so I shed a little light on the history, kind of where it's at today. I go into call it pros and cons of, one-offs versus buying in bulk, meaning buying a single family rental portfolio versus multifamily. And then I just go into the how-to, how to find, how to finance, how to operate and manage, things to ask property management companies if you do decide to hand off to a third-party management company,
right?
So on and so forth.
Okay, it sounds great. It sounds like a good read for anyone out there looking for something. What do you see right now, like the market going on? I mean, obviously things have definitely slowed down for a period of time when everyone was in quarantine, everything was locked up. But Texas has been open for a number of weeks. Do you see the market, picking back up to speed like it was beforehand?
Yeah, I do. Obviously it's going to be market by market dependent, and probably even sub-market by sub-market dependent, depending on the quality of the location, the quality of the asset as well. So I'm going to speak specifically to multifamily because that's what we specialize in.
That's what you do.
Yeah. And so that being said, I don't see the unemployment benefits changing anytime soon. If you look at history, with the Obama administration, they were very willing, along with the Fed, to provide unemployment benefits all the way through 2013. Although that recession, technically lasted 18 months.
Yeah.
So, obviously they're going to change and it's going to alter. But I see the government to continue to help with regard to unemployment. Rent collections. I think that was a big concern with regard to the rent collections. As we progressed from March to April to May to June, everyone was, what are April rent collections going to look like? Then, they were strong. And then, what are May rent collections going to look like? Well, they're strong. So we've seen investor sentiment continue to pick up. I interviewed Mark Belsky from Eastern Equity on my podcast yesterday, and he was talking about just, the amount of liquid. Everyone knows. I mean, the market is just so liquid right now. There's so much cash in the market, and people are hungry for yield. So I think what's come out of this is multifamily as an asset class is going to be a very, strong, high performing asset class now and in the future.
It's going to continue to be. Yeah. And so just a quick plug on that also, Mark is the host of Multifamily 5. So check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. But that is very insightful. And are you seeing the same players in the space? Because obviously you mentioned there's a lot of liquid in the market right now. People are just hungry to buy. They're hungry to find. But are the same players that you saw 6 months ago, are the same people looking at deals, trying to close deals right now?
Yeah, so I really focus on, we'll call it private to middle market, where it's your 5 to about upwards of maybe $35 million transaction. And
Gotcha.
I would say more of our transactions are really 5 to 20. So I would call that more, private boutique, where you have your syndicators that, I know you're connected with many that meet at, a lot of these networking events, and they raise capital amongst their circles from, white collar business professionals such as doctors and attorneys, family and friends. That being said, I would say, early on, like through March, April, and maybe beginning of May, it was a lot of those private syndicators, just because of, their equity and who would invest in their deals.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot more uncertainty. And I would say they really kind of fell to the wayside.
Really?
Whereas, those with their own capital, high net worth with their own capital, with real estate experience, family offices, those were the two that, really were still targeting deals and said, hey, maybe if I can come in at a 5% discount, I think this is going to be kind of a V or a U shape, and I can come in at a little bit of a discount, and then that buyer seller price gap will meet. And, they were taking some chance or risk, but
Sure.
As of today, it seems like that may work out.
Well, it's very promising to hear that, there's still a lot of action going on. And it's interesting to note that there's kind of different players coming into the scene and much heavier. And I think we expected that, right? I mean, people have been sitting on cash, just piles of cash. And a lot of the private, the family offices, for example, are kind of testing out and seeing that, hey, multifamily is performing better than a lot of the other assets that we've been investing in until now. Certainly this, the stock market and things like that. Let's put some more cash into those assets.
Yeah, and I do think we are seeing a little bit of a shift. For those that may have been more focused on other asset classes that aren't doing as well as multifamily,
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they weren't in multifamily at all, and they're saying, "Hey, I think multifamily is something that we really need to take a look at when we consider our portfolio." So, and also going back, I would say that at least in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, we have seen some of these I call them private syndicators, that are going out and raising equity from their family and friends that are, coming back into play, and chasing deals and being competitive.
Well, it's also good to hear. It's important to note that there's still a lot of opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And our sellers, I heard from a bunch of people recently that I've been speaking with that who were considering selling properties, and then they decided to hold back and take their properties off the market. Mm-hmm. Was that something you saw as well in Dallas?
Yeah, there was a lot of properties that were taken off the market, and it seems like as of mid-June, there's a little bit of a wave of properties coming back to market. Really depending again on the specific deal. And now,
right.
If the rent collections remain, strong, throughout the last few months after the stay-in-place orders were enacted, then those deals are probably coming back to market. But if there was any kind of dip, or there's, some uncertainty on maybe lower quality assets, then they're probably looking to hold off for the time being until they catch up, or whatever the case may be.
Sense.
I mean, we had a couple of deals that we signed up and put on hold. We are bringing, I think, 2 back out here soon. And another one, unfortunately, just told me yesterday that they're going to refinance the property. So, there are definitely some portfolio level decisions being made. Right. If we don't sell, do we hold or do we refi? And, I think some of those deals will end up being refinanced versus being sold.
Well, especially with the interest rates being as low as they are right now. I think, that's true. A lot of people are considering that. So, I just want to just shift gears right into the Final Four right now. Is that all right, Mark?
Okay. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So what's the worst job that you ever had?
So I've really only worked, when I think about it, 3 jobs. 4 if you include my high school job, sweeping or helping my father out on construction sites, like, job cleanup and running electrical or whatever the case may be, helping with flooring and stuff like that, because he would still take on trades. And I would do that during the summer, which is the hottest time, anywhere in the United States. So I would say that's probably up there. But second, I mean, the Army, some great experiences. However, I would say it got to a point where I was like, you know what, I would prefer not to go out to the field for a field training exercise and, not sleep a whole lot, not shower for weeks on end, and eat food out of a bag. So I would say, again, some great things about being in the Army, but probably not my favorite job. It's not a good fit for me.
I hear that. Yeah, you have to be the right type of person to be able to benefit from it. What is a book that you've read that has given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a spiritual guy, and the Bible has been just a book for me, and I'm a Christian, so call it the Holy Bible, which includes the Torah, is what we call the Old Testament. But just reading from cover to cover the entire Bible, and having a relationship with God, I would say for me that's just been a paradigm shift, and really changed my life for the better. And I know that's not like maybe there has been a business book. A lot of people name Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something like that. But I'm going to go with the Bible because, business or job is, just one aspect of your life, but probably not the most important.
100%, of course. And it's interesting because I asked the question, what's giving you a paradigm shift? Because I don't want to just, what's your favorite book? If people think it's a business podcast and I got to say something business, and quite surprisingly, quite a few people have offered, suggestions of books that are not business related, which obviously half the people have chosen Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? But the other half have been, a great kind of variety of different things. So I'm very fortunate, and grateful that you chose the Bible, because that is something that has given me a paradigm shift as well in my life. Yeah. Totally changed my life, when I started to dig deep and study into it. So let's move on to the third question, which is, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
I think it'd be really cool to learn how to fly a plane. Just to hop, if I could have a little small plane, hop in it and, go to the coast of Texas for the weekend or something like that. I doubt it's something I'll ever do, but that'd be a really cool skill to have.
Well, yeah, that definitely would be. If you put your mind to it, you for sure could do it. It's just a question of making the time for it, making it a priority. What does success mean to you, Mark?
So I put just achieving your goals. I just wanted to make it simple. So, I mean, I think you can have success in different areas of your life. If you want to be, the best husband or father you could be, or the best broker you could be, and you probably have goals within that, smaller subset goals. Yeah. So success is just, setting goals and achieving your goals. And those goals may look different from you, Yona, and they'll probably look a lot different from me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And achieving those goals, that is, that's every achievement of any goal is a success. So that's a great answer. Where can our listeners find you, Mark? How can people reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, I try to stay active on LinkedIn, probably not as much as you, Yona, but
I don't think anyone is active with me in
LinkedIn. The LinkedIn king. So that being said, you can reach me on LinkedIn. It's under Mark Allen. And again, I work for Greystone. Funny enough, I know the other Mark Allen. There's two Mark Allens in our market. What a coincidence. We both broker multifamily. So I am the Mark Allen with Greystone. You can also reach me at mark.allen. That's mark.allen at greystoneisg.com. Yeah, those would be the two best.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you taking the time here today with us and, sharing some knowledge, a little bit of background about you and, what's going on in the current market. So thanks again for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Yona. Appreciate the time. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope to make it back to Dallas. There's plenty of people calling me back to Dallas. In fact, I was just there literally like the day before, this whole COVID thing, like a couple of days before this whole thing happened. kind of broke down. Anyways, I want to thank you. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in once again. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.